Hi y'all, my name is Heather B and I do be reading. It is officially March, which means that it is time to go over all of the books that I read in February. Let's talk about it. Before I get into each specific book that I read last month, let's go over a little bit of the statistics of what I read and how I read it and how I'm feeling about it. I am normally a very romance-heavy reader, so it is not uncommon for me to do an entire month of just straight romance. This month I was actually very impressed with myself. I read 7 books this month. 3 of those books were audiobooks, 2 were ebooks, and 2 were physical hard copy books that I had on my physical TBR. Out of all of those books, only 4 of them were romance, which is actually really surprising for me. The other 3 were a mystery, a fantasy, and a historical fiction. I have been trying to dabble in audiobooks recently because I feel like I have this weird stigma in my brain that audiobooks aren't really reading, and I just want to get rid of that stigma because I could be spending so much more time reading if I would just let myself enjoy audiobooks, you know what I mean? So I've been trying to pick different audiobooks every single time. I've been trying not to go with just romance or just shorter novellas or things like that. I've been trying to pick a plethora of audiobooks, if you will. So we're going to talk about some of those. Let's get into exactly what I read in February. The first book I finished in February was Breakout Year by Katie Casey. This book is about an MLB player named Eaton who is with his hometown team that he's been with for a couple years, and he's very, very happy there. He has a lot of friends there, his family's there, and he ends up having kind of a tiff with management because he thinks that Pride Night should be a bigger night and it should be a part of what they do every year. And they kind of let it go, and then they try to sucker him into doing a family night a couple games later that involves more like religion, even though he's not a part of the religion that they're trying to promote. And he's not super comfortable with that. And this leads to him getting traded to a different team. He ends up getting traded to the New York City team. And when he gets to the New York City team, he's really not sure if that's why he was traded or not, but he's just kind of guessing. And the media, when he first gets there, they're asking him a bunch of questions and he's very flustered. And they kind of ask him if he's gay or not. And he kind of gives a non-answer and says, would it matter if I was? And that leads to all this speculation and everybody freaking out and him assuming that he's going to get traded out of New York as soon as his year is up. And it's just very, very stressful for him. So he calls his manager and he says, you know what? I don't want to feel like this. I wouldn't care if I was gay or not. So I want to fake date somebody, because that was one of his manager's offers to get him out of that. And his manager was like, oh, great. We have a bunch of girls lined up. And he was like, no, I want to fake date a dude. So he ends up calling a casting call to have a bunch of guys to come in to basically, they have to sign NDAs, but they come in and they volunteer to be Eaton's fake boyfriend. And one of the guys that comes in is Akiva, who was a friend of his in years past when he was in the minors. They both played in the minors together. And Akiva always had a crush on him. Akiva is gay. And as soon as he sees Akiva, he's like, I know that this is it. It has to be you. We have to fake date. And Akiva is not really interested in it, but he ends up talking him into it. And that is how the beginning of this story plays out. I don't want to spoil anything else, so that's all you're getting. I ended up giving Breakout Year by Katie Casey a 2.5 out of 5. I was so excited to read this book. I bought it from a local romance store. I had never heard of this author before, and I was just starting to get into romance because of Heated Rivalry, and I had read a couple other things after that, and I was like, I want to kind of dabble a little bit more in romance because I was really enjoying it. And so I picked this up because I thought the premise sounded good. I always love a fake date. I love the idea of it being not second chance, but lost friends, and Akiva had ghosted Eaton, so I'm like, oh my god, there's going to be so much drama because they're going to find out why he was ghosted, and it's going to be a whole thing. something just felt really flat for me in this book, and I was honestly struggling to read it the majority of the time, which stinks because the romance itself was very, very cute. The romance itself was super cute, but there was a lot of miscommunication going on that really didn't, I felt like didn't need to happen. And even if it did need to happen, it should have either played out longer and gone on longer or played out shorter. The way that it kept happening was like they would kind of resolve it and then it would come back, and then they would kind of resolve it and it would come back, and it was just pissing me off. I wasn't having fun with it. In terms of the actual characters and the romance, I thought that it was very cute. I think just my biggest complaint about this book is that the plot sounded like it would make complete sense when you read about it on the back of the book. You're like, okay, I get it. I understand. The plot made pretty much no sense in the beginning. Like, there was really no reason for him to get a fake boyfriend. He never came out as gay. He doesn't even come out as gay until, like, the last 20% of the book. Or bi or anything. Like, he didn't come out as anything. He didn't even know before that he could potentially be gay. So it was, like, weird that he even got a fake boyfriend. And it was weird that he was so touchy in front of the media, and they never made it seem like he had been questioning it before. They just kind of made it seem like it was this weird happenstance that happened, and he kind of accidentally called himself maybe potentially gay. I don't know. The plot sounded good, but when it actually got into it, the plot was not making any sense. The plot was not plotting, if you will. So I ended up giving this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. That is not to say that other people will not enjoy this book. I'm always hesitant to do anything under 3 stars of a rating on a video or online. I think I ended up giving it a 3 on Goodreads because you can't do half. But I'm just way too nice with my reviews. But I think other people could potentially enjoy this. I will say I did enjoy both characters were Jewish, and there was a lot of Jewish culture and a lot of the Jewish religion in this book, and there's like a glossary in the back for all the Jewish words that you might not know, and I found that part of it to be really fun. I found all the side characters to be really fun. Akiva had some great side characters in his life, the woman that he was working for, the people that he was friends with, and they were all fantastic. And obviously Eaton is going through a lot and doesn't really have a lot of friends. They all kind of ghosted him, so he really doesn't have anybody in terms of like side characters. But even his baseball player teammates were fun to see them interact and see how they were with him. I feel like this book is very heavy in trying to get you to understand that there is still a lot of stigma against being gay in male professional sports, which I get. I really, really do. And it just wasn't doing it. Like, it almost felt like they were trying to force it. Like, he would ask some of his teammates questions, or he would constantly be thinking that his teammates were judging him when that wasn't what was happening at all. Like, he didn't even give them a chance, Eaton. He didn't even give his new teammates a chance. He was just kind of immediately like, oh my god, they're all going to hate me. They're all going to be weird about me because I'm gay, or they think I'm gay, or they think I'm bi, or whatever. And that part that was another annoying part to the book, was like, you gotta at least... They haven't even said anything, dude. Like, you gotta at least try to give him a chance. So, I don't know that I would recommend this book, but I'm sure there are people out there that would really enjoy it. And I don't know that I will be moving forward with any more of Katie Casey's books, because I think this just kind of turned me off to the writing. Now, with that last book being my intro to reading in February, I was very nervous for how the rest of the month would go, because I don't typically rate anything under a 3, so that was a lot for me, and I was like, this month is going to be absolutely terrible. And then I picked up my first audiobook of the month, which was Daisy Jones and the Six. I had such a fun time with Daisy Jones and the Six. I had like the best time. If you have not heard of this book, Daisy Jones and the Six is a historical fiction, or at least I was considering it a historical fiction, by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book goes through the lifetime of a rock band, and I believe they were in the 70s, and it shows... Every different person gets their own POV. So everybody in the band gets a POV. Some of the family members have POVs, the managers, the techs, random people that they came in contact with at like hotels and restaurants and things like that. And it kind of travels through the band and how they came to be, who they were before they all came together, how they all came to be, how Daisy Jones ended up being a part of the Six because they were a band before her. And then how the chaos ensued, I guess, as the band got more popular and things got more complicated, and then how they ended up breaking up. And it's kind of just everybody looking back at their lives and saying, like, these are all the things that happened. And you can tell that some of them are being a little more forthright and a little more truthful than others. But this book, for one, I don't think I would have enjoyed this book as much if I had read it in a physical copy. And I didn't think I would ever say that about a book. Never in my life did I think that I would say, I don't want to read the physical book. I would rather just listen to the audio. This book, if I closed my eyes, I felt like I was listening to an episode of MTV Behind the Music, if y'all remember that. I forgot that it wasn't a real band. I got to the end of the book. I was crying. I was full hysterics. I'll insert a clip because I did take one. If I can find it, I'll insert it. There were so many different things going on. There was your typical things that happened in a rock band, especially in the 70s, you know, sex, drug and alcohol abuse, issues with family, issues with fame, you know, romance, love triangles, having kids, trying to determine when it's okay to give up the band, even though you're doing amazing, but you're getting older. There was so much to it, and it felt real. It felt so freaking real, guys. So real, and I absolutely adored it. Like, I don't think there's anything... I rated it a 5 out of 5, if you couldn't tell. I don't think there's a single thing that I would change about the audiobook of Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I absolutely adored it. If you have not listened to this book yet, if you're one of those people like me who doesn't do a lot of audiobooks and you're not really sure if you should do an audiobook or not, or if you would like it or not, but you like music and you like interview type things, like interview style things, and listening to, or if you like podcasts, this would be perfect because it sounds like a podcast. I could not recommend this book enough to anybody that would listen to me. I highly recommend doing it as an audio, but it was so good. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. It was so good. After rating Daisy Jones and the Six audiobook as a 5 out of 5, I was like, I'm ready to jump into another audiobook. Let's do it. I'm ready. Here we go. I decided to step out of my comfort zone again and pick up a mystery, which I almost never do, and did not go as planned. So the third book that I read this month, or listened to, was the audiobook for The Housemaid by Frieda McFadden. I think at this point, everyone who's ever considered reading a book recently has heard of The Housemaid by Frieda McFadden. This book is about a young woman who needs a job very, very badly. She's living in her car. She just recently got out of jail, so she needs a job where they're not going to check references and they're not going to be like crazy about it. And she ends up finding a woman who is a rich housewife who is looking for a housemaid / nanny to help her out with all the things that she has to do around her house and with her daughter. So she applies for the job. She goes for an interview. She's like, there's no way I'm getting this job. Like, absolutely none. There's literally no way I'm getting this job. And she ends up getting a call back for the job. So she starts the job and she's like, this is perfect. I can live here. I don't have to live in my car. I'm going to be making decent money. These people seem really nice. And then she learns very, very quickly that the wife that lives in this house is absolutely nuts. She's crazy. And that is the start to the book. I don't want to give anything else away, so that's all you're going to get from me. But I will tell you, this book drove me insane. And like, not in the way that mystery and thriller books are supposed to. I can understand that a mystery and a thriller book, you're going to have a lot of characters that you don't like. You're going to have a lot of characters that piss you off. You're going to have a lot of characters that do things that you wouldn't do. It's like watching a horror movie and the person starts screaming and they fall right when the bad guy starts chasing them. And then they don't get up. And you're like, wow, you're really dumb. So like, you're supposed to be a little bit pissed off by the characters. It gives you that buy-in emotionally, I think. I did not see a single redeeming quality in any of these characters. I hated every single one of them. The only thing that made up for it was the ending, but just slightly. I even hesitated to rate this as high as a 3 because I was pissed off the whole time I was listening to it. I expected to be pissed off in the beginning, and then it just got worse and worse and worse, and it just kept going to the point where I fast forwarded through the last, like, I don't know. I fast forwarded through probably the last, like, 2 chapters. Instead of listening at like a 1.5 or a 1.3 or whatever I was listening at, I was listening at like a 4 because I just did not care anymore. I didn't care what the outcome was. The ending actually ended up being pretty good. I felt like the ending went on way too long, but how they wrapped everything up ended up actually being really good. I am also pissed off that they wrapped it up to leave room for a second book, which I know that there are more books after this one, but these characters drove me crazy. Normally I at least like one character in a book, even if it's just a random side character. I hated everyone in this book. At one point, halfway through the book, I was like, I hope all of these characters get lost or because I can't handle any of these people anymore. Clearly, this is why I don't read a lot of mystery and thriller books. They all tend to do this to me. I did rate it a 3 out of 5. I think that other people would enjoy this book. I think if you like mysteries and thrillers, you would enjoy this book. I think if you're maybe a reader who hasn't been reading very long or hasn't picked up a book in a very long time and you're trying to get through something that's fast-paced, this would be the book. The audiobook was good. I think it would have been just as good reading it. I don't think it really made that much of a difference. It was cool to hear the different tones that they used and the way that they would yell and the different, like hearing the different characters and their emotions behind their words as opposed to just reading it on a page. I do think I would enjoy more mystery and thriller books if I was to listen to them on audio as opposed to read them on in a physical book. But I think I need to wait a while to do that after The Housemaid because I wanted to rip my hair out. I think I almost did at one point. Yeah. After being tortured by The Housemaid by Frieda McFadden, I had to move on to something that I knew I was absolutely going to love, and that ended up being one of my favorite indie authors, Sarah Blue, and her new book, Cherry Bomb. Sarah Blue is one of my favorite Omegaverse writers. She writes some great Omegaverse books. If you are looking to get into Omegaverse, if you don't know what Omegaverse is, but you're curious about it, if you've kind of heard about it and you're not sure, she writes some amazing Omegaverse books that are very uncomplicated and they're very well explained. Like the whole world is very well explained to you and it's very easy to get into. It is very spicy. That is just the nature of an Omegaverse book. So just understand that if you're going to go into it. I am not going to explain Omegaverse to you. If you want me to, I can do that in another video. Just let me know. Cherry Bomb by Sarah Blue is about Cherry. That is her like stripper name, if you will. Cherry designates late as an Omega, which means that she thought she was just a regular girl until later in life when she was already an adult and she found out that she was an Omega. Think of it like getting your period really late in adulthood and finding out that you have one. So she finds out, her mom gets jealous. Her mom has this giant pack full of all these crazy alphas and her mom is always the center of attention and like barely pays attention to Cherry. And her mom finds out and gets very jealous and assumes that the alphas are gonna try to take over Cherry or like Cherry more than the mom. So the mom kicks her out. She has to figure out a way to make ends meet, a way to care for herself, which she's never had to do before, and a way to come to terms with the fact that she's now an Omega, which is brand new to her. It's a brand new lifestyle. It's a brand new everything. She has to figure out her whole life now. So she ends up going to work at a scent club, which is basically a strip club for alphas. And she ends up meeting a beta that she is very interested in. And it just so happens that one of his pack mates is one of her mom's exes. I absolutely adored this book. I had so much fun with this book. It was very cute and fun and quirky, and I love an Omegaverse book when they have, especially when they have multiple meet cutes. Are you kidding me? Like, in an Omegaverse book, there's multiple guys. So there's going to be multiple meet cutes sometimes. And I love when they do it like that, instead of just having them all meet as a pack, or instead of having one guy meet the Omega and fall for her and then bring her to the pack. I like when it's like separate meet cutes, and that's what this one was, and it was so good. Our two alphas in the pack were hot firefighters. Love. And our beta in the pack gives off more alpha energy than any alpha in the freaking book. He's fantastic. If you are looking for something that's spicy and fun, but still has a really good plot and still has a lot of emotion to it, but is definitely spicy, you may want to give this book a try, or just give any of Sarah Blue's Omegaverse books a try if you're interested in that, because she writes some phenomenal ones, and I can't say enough good things about her. I love every single book I read of hers. After reading Cherry Bomb, I stuck with the romance theme, and I jumped into another audiobook, which ended up being an Amazon original, and it was a novella called Accidentally Yours by Christina Lauren. This novella is about our FMC Veronica, who enters a Zoom meeting thinking that she's going in for an interview, and is sitting there and waiting, and she goes to click into the lobby early, and she finds herself in a meeting with a bunch of tech bros who run a tech company, who are giving the worst pitch ever. And she's a marketing consultant, so she's like, this is absolutely terrible. So instead of just leaving and being like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here, she leaves a brutal email for the CEO and is like, that was the worst pitch I've ever heard. Here are all the things you did wrong. That was absolutely terrible. Because she thinks, I'm never going to see any of these guys again. I don't care about these people. They should at least know what they were doing wrong, because they're tech dudes and they have no idea. The CEO ends up tracking her down by email and responding to her, offering her a job. And she's like, well, I can't do that. And he's like, no, you have to, because clearly we need your help. And she's like, well, that's kind of endearing. Like, at least he's admitting that he sucks at what he's doing. So she very desperately needs some cash. So she's like, you know what? I'll do it on a one-off basis. I will help you out this one time. And she ends up falling for the CEO. This novella was such a good time. This was so fun. I love when a novella is so good that I wish that it were longer. Like, I wish we got more. But the problem with a really good novella is that it's fleshed out so well in the novella format that you can't really see anywhere that it could be made longer, except for the timeline as a whole, but it makes sense as a novella. You wish it was longer, but it's just not, because that's just not what it is. And while it's disappointing, I did have so much fun with it. I ended up rating this a 4 out of 5. I had such a good time. I love Christina Lauren. I've read a lot of their stuff, and they're good every time. I don't know what else to say. If you haven't read Christina Lauren, definitely hop into one of their books. Paradise Problem was one of my absolute favorites last year. I loved that book so much. But this book was really fun. Amazon has been doing a lot of these original series where they'll grab really popular romance authors, and I think they've done it with other genres too. They'll grab a bunch of them and they'll do, like, this series was for Valentine's Day. So they had like 5 of them that were for Valentine's Day, and they were on Kindle Unlimited and they were on Audible. And so you could listen or you could read, and they're just such a fun time. And I love getting to revisit some of my favorite authors before they have brand new books out by seeing them in novella form, because the writing is always just so good. And novellas are just meant to be silly and fun. Like, they're not meant to be anything super serious, and sometimes that's all I'm looking for. You know what I mean? So I did give Accidentally Yours by Christina Lauren a 4 out of 5 stars. The 6th book I finished in February was actually an ARC that I received from one of my other favorite indie authors, and that was Ace and Ember by Kate Crew. This book is the second in Kate Crew's series, The Mavericks, that follows a group of motorcycle riders that are kind of like in a gang. They're kind of criminals, very morally gray. I don't even know if you would call them gray. I don't even know. morally black, basically. Like, they're heathens. But it's so much fun to watch all of them. We got to meet a lot of the characters in Rook and Rebel, which is the first book in the Maverick series. And I absolutely adored that book. And I adored Hollow's Garage by Kate Crew as well, which is a fully finished series that you can find, I believe, on Kindle Unlimited. And just all of her books are so much fun because they involve so much found family. They involve so many like morally gray aspects. They involve racing because her last series was about cars, like street racers. And I just really enjoy her writing. I really enjoy all the love stories. She tends to have some really strong FMCs, which I absolutely adore. So I was very excited to get the arc for this book. With all of that being said, this book, Ace and Ember, was about our FMC Evie, who is Rook's, from the first book, our MMC Rook's younger sister, and she is off limits to everybody in the group. And everybody knows that. Like, she's crazy, she's hot, but she is off limits to absolutely everybody in the group, no matter how hard she tries to flirt with everyone, and she does. And she only has her eyes on Aiden, who knows that she's absolutely forbidden. Aiden is Rook's best friend and his right-hand man, and they do everything together. He basically co-owns the business that they have with Rook, and he knows that he cannot touch Evie. Even though he really likes her, he knows that he cannot go anywhere near her. It would be a huge betrayal, and Rook would never forgive him. So the entire story begins with Evie wanting Aiden and deciding to, because she's crazy, blackmail him into spending more time with her because she's convinced that she can get him to fall for her. Little did she know that he had fallen a very long time ago, and he's just been trying to hold himself back. So the entire story is really just a forbidden love story with kind of like a cat and mouse game in it. I was so excited for this book. When I tell you, I had been obsessively staring at my phone to find when the arc was going to get released so that I could get it to my phone, so that I could read it. It took me so long to read this book. I am so utterly disappointed with this book, and it makes me so sad because, like I said, Kate Crew is one of my absolute favorite indie authors. I love her so much. I'm so glad Rook and Rebel got picked up for trad publishing. I'm so happy for her. But I had such a hard time with this book. The plot of the book wasn't bad. It was a little on the immature side romance-wise, but it kind of made it more fun because there were like criminal aspects to it. So the immaturity and the craziness of the two main characters with the criminal aspect in it kind of made it just really fun. Like, I wasn't overly mad about it being a little immature. My biggest issue was that obviously I received this as an arc. I've read arcs before. This book was so in need of editing, it's ridiculous. There was so many times in this book where the timeline of events just did not make sense. Like, they would explain that something happened, and then a couple paragraphs later, they would explain that the same thing happened. And it would just, like, there would be no explanation as to why it happened twice. They'd be like, oh, we just barely missed seeing the neighbor. And then a couple things would happen. And then they'd be like, oh, we just barely missed seeing the neighbor. And it got to a point, if it had only happened once or twice, that's normal in an arc, in my opinion. If it only happens once or twice, fine. If it's only a couple spelling mistakes, a couple grammar mistakes, fine. This book is being trad published. So she has a trad editor. I would assume if it's being trad published, I would assume you have a ton of editors and your publishers are on top of it. So multiple people should have been reading over this book. I found it to be glaringly obvious that the timeline was very all over the place, which is a shame because, like I said, the characters were very good, the found family's very good, the spice was very good, the criminal aspects were very good. My only other complaint was that there is like the whole time you're reading the book, there's something that you're trying to figure out, kind of like a mystery aspect to it. And the reveal at the end was absolutely fantastic, but I wish it had been a little bit longer. I wish the ending had lasted a little bit longer. Like them coming to terms with what happened and all of that stuff, where it just kind of got cut abruptly. But my biggest complaint was really just the timeline jumps. I had such a struggle with it. It made me not want to finish the book, and I was so upset about that because I love Kate Crew, and it just made it so hard. And I hate that I'm talking about this on here because I don't want her to get hate or anything like that. Please, please, please read Hollow's Garage series by Kate Crew. It's so, so, so good. If I could recommend any series, especially an indie one, it would be that one. I love her so much. This book just fell so flat for me. I ended up being very kind about it, and I rated it a 3.5 out of 5 because I truly think that if some of those time jump issues or timeline issues had been fixed before I got the book, hopefully they'll be fixed after I got the book, but if they had been fixed before I got the book, I probably would have rated it a 4 or higher. So I was trying to be kind about it and assume that there's going to be more editing done. I really, really hope that there is because I love Kate Crew so much. And the plot of the book was phenomenal and the spice was amazing, and there's so much that I loved about it, but I found it really hard to get through as an arc with the minimal editing the way that I had it. So I hope for her sake that it is going to be edited before it reaches shelves. I believe it's coming out in the summer of this year. So I really hope there's more editing being done because I almost DNF'd it. And I normally rate her books a 4.5 or higher. So that was a first for me. Very disappointed with that. I feel very conflicted about it. I don't even know if I should be talking about it. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's get to the last book. The 7th and final book that I finished in February was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I was so nervous to pick this book up. This has been on my TBR for what feels like a million years. I think everyone has read it. I am not the biggest fantasy person, so I really struggled trying to convince myself to read this. And let me just tell you, I am so glad I did. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig is a fantasy book about this town named Blunder, and they live, it's just like a picture like a small old English town. That's kind of what I was picturing. And the town is surrounded by this magical mist that they're told that they can't go into. The mist will like take them away, like there's magic in it. Along with the magical mist, there is also this magical infection that when people get this sickness, they come down with a fever for weeks or months, and then if they are strong enough to come out of it, they develop some sort of magic within them, but the more that the magic uses them, the more it degenerates them and they end up dying from it or going crazy from it. So this whole town is trying to combat not just this sickness, but they're also trying to combat the mist, and the mist is like taking over their town and it's making it smaller and smaller and smaller. And there's also these Providence cards that are like more controlled magic that people can use. Each card does a different thing, and these cards are very valuable. They get stolen a lot, or they can be traded, and that's kind of like the most valuable thing that you can get in this town. And the majority of the cards are held by the royal court, and the king says that he holds these cards to keep everybody safe. He also decrees that any person, normally it's children, but any person that comes down with this magical sickness must be taken away so that they don't infect the rest of the town. So once somebody gets infected, they kind of disappear. And the townspeople don't know, but these children or people that are infected are being kept in Stone, which is the palace where the king lives. So we meet Elspeth in the beginning of this book. She was infected with the magical infection in like 13 years ago, and we meet her at this point. She's been hiding and running for 13 years, and she is just desperately trying to not get caught. She's just desperately trying to live her life and to just be happy with what she has. And she lives, her father cast her out of his house to keep her safe, so because he was too close with the king, so she lives with her aunt, and she loves living there. And then one day they get invited to go to Equinox, which is like an event that happens every year at the castle, and she is told that she has to go with the family and that she'll be fine, nothing's gonna happen. And she ends up having a run-in with members of like the resistance, and it kind of develops from there. This book has a little bit of everything in it. This book has a little bit of romance in it. It has a magic system, but it's a very easy magic system to understand. I'm sure I just explained it very badly, but it's a very easy magic system to understand. The writing is so beautiful. The writing is like poetic, but haunting, but romantic. It's just, there's so much. It reminds me a lot. The whole time I was reading this, I was thinking of the fact that the writing reminds me of Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. The writing is very similar in the sense that there's a lot going on, and they've built this whole magical world that seems like it's a world of the past. Like it almost reads like an old English fairy tale kind of. And while there's so much going on, everything is said in such basic writing. Like it's not overly described. There's not a million different characters. There's not a million different types of magic. It's very simple, yet very intriguing and very haunting and very romantic all at the same time. I loved this book. I am so glad that I read it. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5, and I think the only reason I didn't give it a 5 is because my head is so wrapped up in heated rivalry right now that while I was reading it, I couldn't concentrate. I think that's it. I did struggle a little bit in the beginning with the magic system, even though it is very simple, because they explain everything to you very quickly. And they continue to explain it throughout the book, the same ideas, the same things, but I always struggle with the magic system. I struggle with fantasy in general, so even the simplest magic system is going to throw me off at least a little bit. I adored this book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. It was so phenomenal, and I cannot wait to read Two Twisted Crowns. I have it sitting next to me. I'm probably going to end up reading it this month, even though I have like a million other books I want to read this month. I need to hop into the next one. I need to know what happens next. I am so excited. I also love that it's a duet. I wish we could do more duets, duologies, whatever you want to call it. I wish we could do more of those, especially in fantasy, because like I said, I get overwhelmed with like really long fantasy books. I don't want to read. I'm not always in the mood for like an 8-book series. Sometimes I just want something simple and sweet, yet tragically good, and that's exactly what One Dark Window ended up being, and I just absolutely love this book. And if I could convince you to read anything out of this video, it would be this, and also J.C. Jones and the Six audiobook. So good. So those are all the books that I read in February. It was a pretty good month. My goal for March this month is to read at least 6 books, and I would like to get at least 2 of those off of my physical TBR. I have a bunch of books that I'm already looking at right next to me that I am planning on reading in March, and I can't wait to start. I can't wait to start. I'm ready. With that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. Let me know what you guys absolutely loved that you read in February that you think that I should read or add to my TBR, and let me know if you loved or hated any of the books that I rated. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I will see you guys next time.